The Milky Way had long been a galaxy ruled by quiet diplomacy, its inhabitants priding themselves on their collective sophistication. Wars were rare, conflicts resolved in orderly arbitration chambers. Species coexisted in relative harmony, their differences celebrated in an unspoken truce of civility. Humans were the exception. Referred to in hushed whispers as Deathworlders, Earth's inhabitants hailed from a planet considered perilous even by galactic standards. Toxic atmospheres, aggressive predators, volatile tectonics, and punishing weather patterns marked their homeworld. But what made humans infamous wasn't just their survival, it was their willingness to thrive under such conditions. The galaxy hadn't entirely dismissed humans. Instead, they tolerated them with cautious skepticism, like one might eye a knife balanced precariously on the edge of a table. Diplomacy allowed humans into the galactic fold, though rarely into positions of influence. They were considered too unpredictable, too aggressive. This didn't bother most humans. Earth had enough problems of its own. Galactic politics were distant and, frankly, boring. But it only took one event to ignite the powder keg that was humanity's reputation, and that event came in the form of an invitation. Commander Elias Rourke leaned back in his chair aboard the Sovereign Venture, a mid-sized Terran diplomatic vessel. The ship was en route to the Trilaxian Concordium, a coalition of powerful alien species who had extended an olive branch to humanity, or so it seemed. The invitation was simple, a peace summit meant to strengthen interspecies alliances. But the subtext was far more pointed. Human militarization had grown too quickly for the Concordium's liking, and this summit was a chance to gauge the real threat level posed by Earth's enigmatic Deathworlders. "What's the play, Commander?" Lieutenant Ava Sinclair asked, standing at the helm of the bridge. "Are we shaking hands and making friends, or are we here to remind them why Earth isn't to be trifled with?" Elias grinned. "We're here to play nice, Lieutenant." They extended the olive branch, and we're going to take it, thorns and all. But keep your edge sharp. Something about this feels off. Ava smirked. "As always, sir." The crew of the Sovereign Venture had been selected for their professionalism and adaptability, but Elias knew their real strength lay in their shared background. Every one of them was from Earth, veterans of a planet that had demanded ingenuity and resilience from its inhabitants since birth. They were the perfect blend of diplomats and warriors, a fitting representation of humanity's dual nature. The Trilaxian Concordium summit was held aboard the Celestial Apex, a colossal space station orbiting the Trilaxian homeworld. Its sheer size dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed, a sprawling testament to millennia of technological refinement. The station glittered with lights and activity, its docking bays bustling with alien ships of every shape and size. Elias and his team disembarked, stepping into the grand atrium where delegates from dozens of species mingled. The atmosphere was one of restrained curiosity. The humans, dressed in formal yet practical attire, stood out among the elaborately adorned alien dignitaries. A Trilaxian envoy greeted them, a tall, insectoid figure with a sleek exoskeleton that shimmered in iridescent hues. Its multifaceted eyes reflected a kaleidoscope of colors as it spoke. "Welcome, Commander Rourke," it intoned in a melodic voice. "The Concordium is honored by your presence." Elias extended a hand, though he knew the gesture was more symbolic than practical. "The honor is ours. Humanity is eager to strengthen our ties with the Concordium." The envoy hesitated, then grasped his hand with one of its elongated appendages. "Indeed. This summit will prove enlightening for all parties." The first day of the summit proceeded as expected. Polite introductions, carefully worded speeches, and an underlying current of suspicion. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the Concordium's leaders were scrutinizing his team, looking for weaknesses. During a break, Ava leaned in close. "They're not just curious about us. They're studying us. Watching every move." Elias nodded. "Let them. They invited us to their playing field, but they don't know we brought our own game." The tension escalated when one of the Concordium's delegates, a Zalkrath warrior named Koresh, approached the human contingent. The Zalkrath were reptilian, their scales gleaming like polished obsidian. Known for their brutal combat traditions, they were among the galaxy's most formidable warriors. "You are the famed Deathworlders?" Koresh asked, his voice a low growl. His sharp teeth glinted as he spoke. Elias maintained his composure. "And you must be Koresh. I've heard much about the Zalkrath's prowess." Koresh's slit-pupil eyes narrowed. "Your species intrigues us. You claim resilience, yet you have not proven yourselves in battle. Words are easy, survival is harder." Ava stepped forward, her expression steely. "We didn't come here to fight. But don't mistake our civility for weakness." Koresh's laughter echoed through the atrium. "We shall see, Deathworlder. Perhaps the galaxy will see what your kind is truly made of." As the summit continued, tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Concordium's agenda became increasingly clear. They wanted to push humanity to reveal its capabilities. Whether this was a test of strength or an attempt to provoke weakness, Elias couldn't say. The breaking point came on the final evening of the summit. Delegates gathered in a massive chamber filled with holographic displays of galactic history and Concordium achievements. The centerpiece was a towering projection of the Milky Way, with each Concordium territory marked in luminous detail. The Trilaxian envoy addressed the assembly, its melodic voice carrying a sharp edge. "This summit has been an opportunity to assess the strength and character of our allies. The galaxy faces growing threats, and it is imperative that we understand one another's capabilities." Elias recognized the bait for what it was. The Concordium wanted humanity to reveal its cards, to show whether Earth was a potential ally, or a threat to be neutralized. Koresh stepped forward, his imposing form casting a shadow over the human delegation. "Deathworlders, you have boasted of your resilience, but words are hollow. Prove your strength. Show us why you belong among the stars." The chamber fell silent as the challenge hung in the air. Ava leaned toward Elias, her voice low. "They're trying to box us in. If we back down, we lose credibility. If we engage, we play into their hands." Elias's mind raced. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment humanity's reputation would be tested. But if they were going to reveal what Earth was truly made of, it would be on their terms. He stepped forward, his voice calm yet commanding. "You want to see what Deathworlders are made of? Be careful what you wish for." The assembled delegates murmured, their curiosity piqued. Koresh bared his teeth in a predatory grin. "We accept." The summit concluded with the announcement of a trial, a series of challenges designed to test humanity's strength, intellect, and resilience. Though Elias suspected the Concordium's motives, he welcomed the opportunity. As the humans prepared for the first trial, Elias gathered his team in a private chamber aboard the Celestial Apex. "This isn't just about us," he said, his tone serious. "This is about Earth. If we fail, they'll write us off as a backwater species unfit for the galactic stage. But if we succeed..." Ava finished his thought. "We show them why Deathworlders are not to be underestimated." Victor, their strategist, added, "We play to our strengths, adaptability, creativity, and sheer grit. They think they know what to expect, but they don't know us." Elias nodded. "Exactly. Let's show them who we are." The first trial was a test of endurance. The Concordium had selected a barren moon with extreme environmental conditions, scorching days, freezing nights, and unrelenting storms. Delegates from each species were dropped onto the surface with limited supplies, tasked with surviving for 3 days. Elias and his team approached the challenge with calculated precision. They constructed shelters from the moon's rocky terrain, rationed their supplies with military discipline, and used Earth's hard-earned survival instincts to adapt to the harsh environment. While other species faltered, the humans thrived. The second trial tested intellect and strategy. Delegates were presented with a series of complex puzzles and simulations, each designed to push their problem-solving skills to the limit. Victor's sharp mind and Ava's quick thinking turned the trial into a showcase of human ingenuity. By the end of the second trial, whispers began to circulate among the Concordium delegates. The Deathworlders were proving themselves in ways no one had anticipated. But Elias knew the real test was yet to come. The third trial promised to be the ultimate challenge, a trial that would force humanity to reveal its true nature. And they were ready. The announcement of the third trial sent ripples of anticipation through the Concordium delegation. Whispers echoed in the halls of the celestial apex, each species speculating about how the infamous Deathworlders would fare. For the humans, this was more than a test, it was a proving ground. The Trilaxian envoy addressed the gathered delegates in the grand atrium, its shimmering exoskeleton catching the light. The final trial will be one of battle. Each delegation will face a simulated combat scenario designed to test their adaptability, strategy, and willpower. Survival and victory will determine your worth. Commander Elias Rourke glanced at his team, their expressions a mix of determination and simmering defiance. They knew the stakes. This wasn't just about passing a test, it was about showing the galaxy that humanity could stand among the stars as equals, or even as leaders. The humans were led to the simulation chamber, an immense, spherical room lined with glowing panels and alien interfaces. A team of Concordium technicians activated the simulation, and the room transformed into a battlefield. Jagged cliffs rose from the ground, rivers of molten lava flowed ominously, and towering alien creatures prowled the terrain. Above, mechanical drones buzzed like predatory insects, their weapons gleaming menacingly. A Trilaxian technician explained the rules. You will have limited resources. Your objective is to survive and neutralize the threats. Success will require strategy, teamwork, and resilience. Elias nodded. Understood. As the humans prepared, their alien counterparts observed from a separate chamber. Koresh, the Zalkrath warrior, stood with a predatory grin, his arms crossed over his scaled chest. Let us see if the Deathworlders are as savage as they claim. The simulation began with a deafening roar as a pack of hulking alien beasts charged toward the humans. Each creature was the size of a tank, its eyes glowing with a feral intelligence. Elias barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. Ava, take the high ground. Victor, lay traps along the ridge. Everyone else, form a defensive perimeter. The humans moved with precision, their training honed from countless drills and survival exercises. Ava scrambled up a rocky outcrop, her rifle gleaming as she took aim. A sharp crack echoed as her first shot struck one of the beasts, sending it tumbling into the lava below. Victor worked quickly, using the limited supplies they'd been given to construct makeshift explosives. They underestimated us, he muttered, his hands steady despite the tension. Big mistake. As the beasts closed in, the humans unleashed a coordinated assault. Explosions lit up the battlefield, and the air filled with the thunder of gunfire. The creatures fell one by one, their massive forms collapsing under the relentless assault. But the simulation wasn't finished. Above, the mechanical drones descended, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Elias's mind raced as he assessed the situation. The drones were faster and more agile than the beasts, and their energy shields made them difficult to hit. New plan. Elias shouted. Victor, get those explosives into the air. Ava, cover him. Everyone else, focus fire on the drone's flanks, find a weak spot. Victor improvised quickly, rigging a launcher from a salvaged piece of debris. He fired a makeshift explosive into the air, and it detonated among the drones, shattering their formation. Ava picked off the stragglers with deadly precision, her shots piercing their exposed circuits. The battlefield fell silent as the last drone crashed to the ground. The humans stood amidst the wreckage, their breaths heavy but their resolve unbroken. In the observation chamber, the alien delegates watched in stunned silence. Koresh's grin faded as he studied the humans' performance. They adapt too quickly, he muttered. They are not like the others. The Trilaxian envoy tilted its head, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the battlefield. Indeed. They are unpredictable. The humans returned to the atrium, their uniforms streaked with dirt and ash but their heads held high. Elias approached the Trilaxian envoy, his expression calm but firm. "Is that enough proof for you?" he asked, his voice carrying a quiet challenge. The envoy hesitated before responding. "Your performance was exceptional. The Concordium will take this into consideration as we determine your place among us." Koresh stepped forward, his predatory grin returning. "You have shown strength, Deathworlders. But strength is not enough. The galaxy is vast, and there are threats you cannot imagine." Ava stepped up beside Elias, her gaze locked on Koresh. "We've faced extinction every day on our planet. You think you scare us? Bring it on." The tension was palpable, the room heavy with unspoken challenges. But Elias raised a hand, signaling for calm. "We didn't come here to start a war," he said. "But if you test us, we won't hold back. The galaxy deserves to see what humanity is capable of, not just in battle, but in unity and resilience." The Trilaxian envoy nodded slowly. "Your words carry weight, Commander. Let us hope your actions continue to match them." As the summit concluded, the humans returned to the sovereign venture. The trials had proven humanity's strength, but Elias knew the real battle was far from over. The Concordium had seen a glimpse of what Deathworlders were capable of, but the galaxy's skepticism wouldn't be erased overnight. In the quiet of the ship's command deck, Elias gathered his team. "We showed them who we are," he said. "But this is just the beginning. They'll test us again, and next time, it won't be a simulation. We need to be ready." Victor leaned against the console, his arms crossed. "They wanted a reason to fear us. Now they have one." Ava smirked. "Let's just hope they realize we're better as allies than enemies." Elias nodded. "One way or another, we'll make them see it. Because when Deathworlders stop holding back, the galaxy will never be the same." The Sovereign Venture had barely left the orbit of the celestial apex when the warning sirens blared, jolting the crew into action. Commander Elias Rourke strode onto the bridge, his jaw tightening as Lieutenant Ava Sinclair reported the situation. "3 ships on intercept course," Ava said, her tone clipped and efficient. "Zalkrath war cruisers. They're not broadcasting friendly signals." Victor Drake, standing by the tactical console, muttered under his breath. That didn't take long. Koresh couldn't resist, could he? Elias crossed his arms, staring at the holographic display. The Zalkrath ships were fast and heavily armed, each one a sleek predator designed for annihilation. They weren't here for diplomacy. "This isn't an accident," Elias said, his voice calm but resolute. "The Concordium wanted to test us further. They think they can push us into submission." Ava's hands flew over the controls. "Do we engage, sir?" Elias glanced at the crew, their faces tense but ready. They'd known this was coming. Humanity's reputation as Deathworlders had always been both a strength and a liability. Now, it was time to prove the former. "Not yet," Elias said. "Send a broadcast to the Zalkrath ships. Let's see if they want to talk before they bleed." The message was brief and direct. "This is Commander Elias Rourke of the Sovereign Venture. Stand down or face the consequences." The response came moments later. Koresh's face appeared on the display, his sharp teeth bared in a predatory grin. "Ah, Deathworlders. So quick to bark, but can you bite?" His voice dripped with disdain. "You passed the Concordium's trials, but you've yet to prove your worth in real combat. Allow us to test your mettle." Elias met Koresh's gaze, his expression unreadable. "You've made a mistake, Koresh. If you think humans won't fight back, you don't understand us." Koresh chuckled, his eyes narrowing. "We understand you well enough. You're unpredictable, dangerous, but also untested. Let's see if you survive the crucible." The transmission cut off, and the Zalkrath ships accelerated, their weapons systems powering up. The first salvo came swiftly. Energy blasts streaked through the void, slamming into the Sovereign Venture's shields. The ship rocked violently, and warning lights flared across the bridge. "Shields holding," Ava reported, though her voice carried a note of urgency. "But not for long at this rate." "Return fire," Elias ordered. "Target their engines, slow them down." Victor worked quickly, directing the ship's cannons. Bright plasma bolts lanced out, striking the nearest Zalkrath cruiser. The impact caused a brief flicker in its shields, but the ship continued its relentless advance. "These aren't your average pirates," Victor muttered. "They're coordinated, and they've got the firepower to back it up." Elias nodded grimly. "They're Zalkrath. Combat is their culture. But we're not losing this fight." The Sovereign Venture darted and weaved, evading the worst of the Zalkrath's barrage. The humans used every trick in the book, false signals, rapid maneuvers, and even calculated baiting, to keep the enemy off balance. But the Zalkrath were relentless, their ships closing the distance with surgical precision. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Hannah Park worked furiously to keep the ship operational. Sparks flew as she rerouted power to critical systems, her voice crackling over the comms. "Shields down to 40%. I need 5 minutes to stabilize them, or we're toast." "You've got 3, Elias replied. "Do what you can, Hannah." On the bridge, the atmosphere was electric. The Zalkrath's second volley struck hard, breaching the outer hull in several sections. Automated systems sealed the damage, but the strain was evident. "We're outgunned, Commander," Ava said, her hands gripping the console. "We can't keep this up." Elias's mind raced. The Zalkrath ships were faster and more powerful, but they were also predictable. Their tactics relied on overwhelming force, assuming their prey would either flee or crumble under pressure. But humans didn't crumble. "Victor," Elias said, "what's the status of our auxiliary drones?" Victor's eyebrows shot up. "You want to deploy them?" "They're repair units, not fighters." "Not today," Elias replied. "Today, they're distractions. Launch them on my signal." Victor grinned. "Now you're talking." The Sovereign Venture banked hard, narrowly avoiding another barrage of fire. As the Zalkrath ships pursued, Elias gave the order. "Deploy the drones. Make it look like we're trying to abandon ship." Victor activated the drones, and a swarm of small, unarmed units burst from the ship's hold. They scattered in every direction, emitting decoy signals designed to mimic escape pods. The Zalkrath fell for it. "Koresh thinks we're retreating," Elias said. "Let's give him a surprise." "Ava, plot a course for the nearest asteroid field. We'll use it for cover." The asteroid field was dense and chaotic, a labyrinth of tumbling rocks bathed in the light of a distant star. The Sovereign Venture dove into the field, weaving between massive boulders as the Zalkrath gave chase. "Watch those impacts," Elias barked. "If we lose engines, we're done." The Zalkrath ships pursued aggressively, their larger size making it harder for them to navigate the asteroids. Elias saw his opportunity. "Victor, target the largest asteroid in their path. Let's see how they handle a real obstacle." Victor grinned and fired. The plasma bolt struck a massive asteroid, shattering it into a spray of debris. The Zalkrath ships struggled to avoid the fragments, their shields flaring as they absorbed the impacts. One of the cruisers clipped an asteroid, spinning out of control before slamming into a larger rock. The explosion lit up the field, sending shockwaves through the void. "2 more to go," Ava said, her voice tight with focus. The second cruiser was more cautious, hanging back to avoid the fate of its companion. But the humans exploited its hesitation. Using the debris for cover, they launched a surprise counterattack, focusing all firepower on the cruiser's engines. The ship shuddered under the assault before its power core detonated, leaving nothing but wreckage. That left the flagship. Koresh's voice crackled over the comms, filled with anger and grudging respect. You fight well, Deathworlders. But you cannot escape me. Elias smirked. Who said anything about escaping? The final showdown was brutal. The Sovereign Venture and the Zalkrath flagship traded blow after blow, each maneuvering for the upper hand. The humans fought with desperation and ingenuity, using every resource at their disposal. As the flagship prepared to deliver a killing blow, Hannah's voice came over the comms. Shields stabilized. We've got one good push left in us. Elias seized the moment. Ava, plot a collision course with their bridge. We're going to end this up close. The Sovereign Venture surged forward, its engines roaring. The Zalkrath flagship fired relentlessly, but the humans pressed on, closing the distance until they were within striking range. Victor, release everything we've got, Elias commanded. The ship's remaining missiles and plasma cannons unleashed a devastating barrage, targeting the flagship's vulnerable bridge. The Zalkrath shields buckled under the assault, and a final explosion ripped through the enemy ship, tearing it apart from within. As the debris settled, the Sovereign Venture limped out of the asteroid field. The crew erupted in cheers, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. On the bridge, Elias sat back in his chair, a satisfied grin on his face. Let that be a message to the galaxy. Deathworlders don't quit. Ava chuckled. Think Koresh got the point. Victor smirked. If he didn't, he's probably not around to argue. With the Zalkrath defeated, humanity had made its statement. The galaxy now understood what Deathworlders were truly capable of, and that underestimating them was a grave mistake. But Elias knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had seen humanity's strength. Now, it was time to decide whether that strength would unite or divide the stars. The Sovereign Venture limped back toward Earth's outpost in the Sol system, its hull scarred and engines operating at half capacity. Despite the damage, the crew moved with a sense of pride and quiet triumph. The Zalkrath had been defeated, not through brute strength but through human ingenuity and determination. The galaxy would remember this day. On the bridge, Commander Elias Rourke leaned back in his chair, surveying the battered but unbroken crew. They had survived not only the Concordium's trials but also a direct assault by one of the galaxy's most feared species. We've made it through the fire, Elias said, his voice steady yet reflective. But the real question is, what comes next? Lieutenant Ava Sinclair, standing at the helm, smirked. Hopefully a stiff drink and some shore leave. Victor Drake chuckled from the tactical console. And maybe a few upgrades to this flying tin can. Next time, let's have a ship that doesn't shake every time someone sneezes. The bridge filled with soft laughter, the kind that only came after surviving something extraordinary. But the weight of what they had done still hung in the air. When the Sovereign Venture reached the outpost, a delegation of Earth's highest-ranking officials awaited them. The crew was given a hero's welcome, though the smiles were tempered by the sobering reality of what their victory represented. Admiral Sophia Kane, the head of Earth's interstellar forces, pulled Elias aside as the crew disembarked. Her sharp eyes betrayed both admiration and concern. You made a lot of noise out there, Commander, she said. The Concordium won't forget what you've done. Elias met her gaze, unflinching. Good. They needed to see what humanity is capable of. Admiral Kane folded her arms. And now they know. But don't mistake fear for respect. Some of them will see us as a threat. Others will want to exploit us. Either way, you've painted a target on Earth's back. Maybe, Elias admitted. But we've also shown them that we're not to be underestimated. If they thought they could keep humanity on the sidelines, they were wrong. Kane sighed, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. You always were good at making a statement. In the days that followed, news of the humans' triumph spread across the galaxy. The Zalkrath's defeat became the subject of endless debate among the Concordium's member species. Some saw it as proof of humanity's value as an ally, while others viewed it as a warning. Koresh's actions were officially denounced by the Concordium leadership, who framed the Zalcrath's assault as a rogue operation. But Elias and his team knew better. The trial and the ambush had been orchestrated to test humanity, to provoke a response that would reveal their true nature. And reveal it they had. Back on Earth, Elias stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Pioneer Station, a gleaming orbital facility that symbolized humanity's growing role in galactic affairs. The station was abuzz with activity, its corridors filled with diplomats, engineers, and military personnel working to prepare for the challenges ahead. Victor joined him, a steaming cup of coffee in hand. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Elias nodded, his eyes fixed on the planet below. "It's more than that. It's a promise." Victor raised an eyebrow. "A promise of what?" "That we're here to stay," Elias said. "We didn't come this far just to be sidelined. The galaxy saw what we can do, and now it's up to us to prove we belong." Victor sipped his coffee, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You think they'll come after us again?" "They will," Elias replied. "But next time, we'll be ready." The Concordium's response came sooner than expected. A delegation of their most influential species arrived at Pioneer Station, requesting an audience with Earth's leadership. Elias was invited to join the discussions as a representative of humanity's military strength. The Trilaxian envoy, the same one who had greeted them aboard the Celestial Apex, addressed the assembly. Its iridescent exoskeleton shimmered under the station's lights as it spoke. "Humanity has demonstrated exceptional resilience and ingenuity," it said. "The Concordium acknowledges your strength and welcomes your continued participation in galactic affairs. However, your actions have also raised concerns. Your unpredictability makes you both valuable and dangerous." Elias leaned forward, his tone measured. "Dangerous to those who seek to control us, maybe. But our goal isn't domination. It's survival and collaboration." The envoy tilted its head, considering his words. "The galaxy is vast and fraught with challenges. If humanity wishes to stand as an equal among us, you must commit to the preservation of peace." Elias's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Peace is always our goal. But don't mistake our willingness to cooperate for weakness. If the galaxy wants peace, it has to be built on mutual respect." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the delegates. Finally, the Trilaxian envoy spoke. "Very well, Deathworlder. Let us see if your actions match your words." As the delegation departed, Admiral Kane approached Elias, a satisfied look on her face. "You've got a way with words, Commander. Let's hope the galaxy buys it." "They will," Elias said. "Because we're going to make them believe it." Months passed, and Earth's influence in the Concordium grew. Humanity's ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination made them a valuable ally, and a formidable opponent. Diplomatic relations flourished, but the shadow of the Zalcrath lingered. Koresh's defeat had not gone unnoticed among his people. Rumors of Zalcrath factions preparing for revenge circulated, but no direct action had been taken, yet. Elias knew it was only a matter of time before humanity faced another test. One evening, as the station's lights dimmed for the night cycle, Elias stood alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched out before him, a reminder of both the vastness of the galaxy and the challenges it held. Ava joined him, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. "Can't sleep?" Elias chuckled. "Something like that. Just thinking about what comes next." Ava leaned against the railing, her expression thoughtful. "Whatever it is, we'll face it. We always do." Elias nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah. We're Deathworlders, after all." Epilogue. The galaxy had learned to fear and respect humanity in equal measure. But for Elias, Ava, Victor, and the rest of Earth's defenders, the journey was just beginning. The stars held countless challenges, but humanity had proven it was ready to meet them. Because when Deathworlders finally stopped holding back, the galaxy had no choice but to take notice.